Hello and welcome to the Enlightened Path podcast. I'm here with my sister, Carolyn Barter, who is in New York. We have a long distance sistership. And Carolyn is a business owner for, what do you call it, Carolyn? A spa? Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Is that the term, spa? Because you offer different treatments and that sort. So yeah, but What we want to talk about today though is light language.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Carolyn and I were just talking, and I asked her, this is an impromptu video, as a matter of fact, because she and I were just talking, and I thought this would be a perfect conversation for the podcast for those people who are just starting their light language path, or even just curious about light language. This is really a perfect conversation for that. So I asked Carolyn if she would mind if we video this conversation and then share it. So we're going to see how this goes. So Carolyn was just talking to me about receiving the book. So can you repeat to me what you said?
Oh, absolutely. So when I received the book, I was so excited to open the package. So I didn't wait till I got home. It was delivered to my workplace. And so I opened it up, and as soon as I touched it, my lips started to quiver, and my hands started to shake. So I brought it to my chest and I gave it a nice hug. And then I passed it along to a friend of mine, and she had a similar experience. And the funny thing is there were another person there, and she was not feeling anything at all. In fact, I think they think we're crazy at the spa, because when we have these conversations.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very curious too. So we get an opportunity to talk and share about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of time. We were laughing about that because there's a lot of times where some of us will be together, and even at psychic fairs, right? Someone will bring a stone over to me and go, "Oh my God, hold this stone and tell me what you feel."
Right.
Because we just want to see what everybody else feels about it,
Right.
But we were talking about your light language journey, and that that it really started when you were 7, right?
Yeah, from my earliest memory, it was 7.
Uh-huh.
And, so the story goes that I was in foster care, and I moved in with this family, and I at that point don't remember speaking Spanish, and so they would sort of encourage me to speak Spanish, and I couldn't because I didn't remember the language, because I wasn't with my mother for many years before then. But at the nighttime, like, my foster mother was not convinced that I was not able to speak Spanish, because she would catch me in the middle of the night talking to the TV in what she referred to as Spanish. And so the next morning she would drill me, and she's like, "Well, you were sitting there talking to the TV." It was back when TVs were TVs, and it was snow. It was white snow. And so there was nobody on the TV, but I was sitting there talking to it. And then I would just go back to bed, and that would be it. And I didn't remember too much after that. But that wasn't a regular occurrence when I was young. So today, I remember, Patricia, when you were when we were in Egypt, and I heard you speaking, and I didn't know what, it was familiar, but I remember looking at you and saying, "What is that language?" And you just sort of walked past me because you were in your space. And so I was like really taken by that because it was familiar. But I didn't know what it was. So, and then when you introduced it to the group, I was like, home. I was home,
Yeah.
That makes me want to tear up, because it's so beautiful and it's such a wonderful connection. And I feel like I've lost that. I know it's there,
Yeah.
but I have to remember. You speak about remembrance all the time. I have to remember and allow that to be part of this healing journey that I'm in with the spa and everything. So, yeah.
So I have a question. So when you were 7 and you were sitting in front of the TV with basically the white space on, right? The white,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Were you, so this is kind of Hollyweird, this part, but Hollyweird has a bit of truth to it,
Mm-hmm.
They give
Absolutely.
us doses of truth all the time because
And
that's unfortunately how human beings have to receive stuff sometimes in doses of truth. And so so there was like what was that show when I was little? You wouldn't know. Well, you might, but uh, anyway, there was a show about people who would sit in front of the TV with the white screen on and they would connect with aliens. And I know
oh,
that was way out there, but there's a bit of truth to it because the white screen puts you in a trance, right? And so when you're in a trance, then you can connect more easily, right?
mhm.
So there's a bit of truth to that Hollywood thing. But so do you think that that's what was going on, was that you were the white screen allowed you to get past all the interference that was in your life? As a child, interference is, parents or adoptive parents or, siblings or whatever, everyday traumas. And so the white screen allowed you to connect in and get past all of that. So that's fascinating. When do you think that you stopped doing that?
I'm not quite sure, but what popped into my head, and you always go with that, right? Is age 10. I think
Okay.
stopped. Um, so yeah, I believe that. I believe that that white screen was my invitation home, was my connection home. Because even
Right.
when I was little girl, I've always felt displaced, even though I was put in the foster care. That wasn't my feeling of displacement. It wasn't. It was bigger than that. It always felt bigger than that.
Yeah.
So, um, but I do believe that, and I remember, I don't know if it was what show, the name of the show, but I remember that show as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That,
It was a sci-fi show. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I do believe that even now, as we're talking, it feels right. It feels like, yes, that was like not just the hypnotic, but it was a place. Well, actually, what you were saying about just dismissing everything else around me and having a conversation. uh I don't know, probably the encouragement to keep the course, Carolyn, keep the course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you
I
know
mean, and so consider this. Your age is not limited to the body that you're in right now, right?
right.
Your age is your soul age. I mean, how many times do people see children who are 4 and 5 years old and they automatically will say, that's an old soul? I
Yeah.
mean, they intuitively will say, that's an old soul, and they don't even fucking know what that means, okay?
No.
But they'll say that because they intuitively know that that child is still connected in to their soul memories
Right.
until we teach it out of them. I'll say
Right.
that, right? Um, because I was connected in when I was really, really young. My family told me that I would talk to the animals and I would go out into nature and not come home till dark and no one worried about me, you know. But then in my, you know, I guess it was around 10, maybe a little bit younger, I stopped doing that, right? And for different reasons. And sometimes it's peer pressure. Sometimes you have to adapt to the world. You know, you have to learn to live in you've heard this before, you need to live in the world.
Right.
You need to get out of that woo-woo space that you're in, and you need to live in the world. I mean, they tell us that now. And so I think that's what happened to a lot of people, my generation and even younger, you know, that we cut off our connection, and I won't even say our gifts. We cut off our connection to source because we had to learn to exist and live in the current world that we're in. And
Right.
and now everybody's trying to get it back.
Right. It almost feels like it wasn't even a choice that I had, that they made the decision to cut me off and let me go so that I
Right,
could experience and go through this journey. It was
right,
time. They could only
right.
hold for so long. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, like, that's it. And so I could remember that that's another part of my life that became very, I don't know, I think like depressive, because it's just another step. Whether I was ready for it or not, it was like, bye, see ya, and that's a level of, abandonment for me, especially if it was a time like I didn't feel ready. And maybe some people felt ready at the age of 10 to say, okay, bye, the mothership is going and I'm here. See you soon. But at that point, I don't feel like I was ready. And it was part of my journey. It was the contract that I made. See you, bye, and we're here, but I didn't keep the we're here part, because I feel like it was, well, like I fell asleep a lot throughout my whole journey. Maybe,
Okay, so
maybe.
but let me ask you,
Mhm.
do you remember your dreams
I
when you,
used to remember all of my dreams, all of them, and they were so vivid and so real and so and visual, and they would come to pass, like almost as if they were the next step, until I was about, I I would say, late 30s, that there was no communication, no dreaming, and even my ability to, like, have an imagination to make things up, like just to the pretending at the age of 30, for some reason that just sort of um got blocked.
okay, so what was going on in your 30s? You were raising children for sure. I know
I
that much, right?
told Yeah, I was in
And so you were trying to keep a home, you were trying to raise children, you
Mhm.
were trying to find your way in the work world, probably, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And at that
So,
point, so I was getting, when I was about 28, I was getting sober.
right.
So that was a whole nother shift changing, awakening of
Yeah.
sorts.
Yeah, I mean, we make these agreements, right? And we come here as masters, but we make the agreement to, as you said, go to sleep.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
we make that agreement to go to sleep so that we can experience the things that we need to experience. Because as masters, I mean, we absolutely know, I don't have to do that. You know,
Right.
I don't have to experience that. I don't have to have this pain. You
Hmm.
know, the pain is not necessary, but so we have to forget that we're masters for a while so that we can have this experience. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then at some point, it's okay to remember, you
Hmm.
know. But these kids coming onto the planet now, and I say now, but now is even as much as 30 years ago, these kids coming onto the planet don't always have those agreements to go to sleep, you know,
Right.
and they struggle because their role models did agree to go to sleep, you know,
Right.
and so their role models grew up with the agreement of, well, at some point you have to be in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to drum that into these 20 and 30-year-olds, you know, get out of your head. You got to live in the world. You have to work. You have to do this. You have to get an education. And so they go through what we went through, or we try to manipulate them into going through what we had to go through. So, I mean, it's a continuous cycle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned in your book, I'm gonna that we go through these situations, so, and because the best way to be a healer is to know what, walk in somebody else's moccasins.
Right.
Right.
You have to
So
have a source of reference. Yeah.
right. So for my journey, it's just set me up. I believe spirit, my guides set me up to be a healer in certain areas, so that I can help where, I mean, we're in this planet right now where there's a lot of people that are still asleep and struggling.
Right.
There's those of us who have gone through it waiting for them so that we can just help them reawaken so that they can move forward and help the next person. Because I think that, we're all at a different vibrational sequence, right? You talk about that all the time. And my frequency may not reach some people. So other people need to be awoken so that the next generation can understand and know that their process is about reawakening and helping to heal our
Yeah.
fellow sisters. So it's a beautiful process when you think about it from that perspective, but while you're in it, it's like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
mm,
But so we were having a conversation before we started filming, and it was about someone. You were telling me that you were struggling or felt as though you were struggling with
mm,
remembering your gift of light language, and that someone made a comment that maybe it's not for you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's absolutely not true, because the language is ours. The language, belongs to everybody, right? It's
Right.
not just, I'm not the only one doing this, right?
Right.
And so I'm just helping people to remember. And the more people that, I mean, just me by myself, the more people that I can connect with their remembrance, and then they connect people with their remembrance, and they connect people with their remembrance. And it's like that, is it scale? They're using the word scalar wave. I don't
Mm,
know what that means, but it's like they said it's like a scalar wave, that it just keeps going out and awakening and helping more people remember and connect in. And so, there are some programs that we still have a lot of programs, fallen programs I call them, but there's some programs that we have that are submersive programs. Sometimes the beings use words and I'm like, what the hell does that word mean? I don't know what that means. But programs to keep you down, to keep you from expanding. And so they implant these programs in people and use these people in order to keep us from expanding. Does that, any of that make sense?
oh,
And so
absolutely.
this person, I know this person that said that to you, and we're not going to call her out, because that's not kind, right? So,
Right.
but I know this person and I know that she's awake. So I
Mhm.
found it interesting that they would use her, they as in they, not my they, but they would use her to try to keep you from expanding by making that statement, right?
Right. Right. Huh.
Uh, because we both know it's not a true statement.
Right.
You
No.
you are already connected. You were connected when you came into existence.
Right.
You were already connected with light language, and you have a memory of transmitting it, and communicating using it, and so it's already yours. It's just a matter of recalibrating it, they say. And so, and they're reminding us that the language that you used to communicate when you were 7 is not the same language that you're going to use to communicate now,
Okay.
because you have changed,
Mhm.
right? Your vibration has changed. And so part of it might be that you keep expecting to sound like and to connect to the frequencies that you had when you were 7.
Okay. Huh.
And that's like expecting your body to look like it did when it was 7, right?
Right.
Those days are gone. You've shifted, you've changed.
Right.
So but I've heard you speak light language and it's beautiful. And so you definitely have the language. It's just a matter of connecting in and listening to when you need to transmit it. And there are times when I consciously transmit it daily, but there are times when I go days without transmitting light language.
Mhm. Mm.
And so it's not something that I guess there are some people that use it every day, all day long. But there are times when I'll think, I haven't transmitted light language in a while, you know? And so it depends on the situation. I mean, in our everyday existence, light language is not always required, right? But remember that you also transmit it, even if you don't verbally transmit it, you're still transmitting light language.
Right.
It's like Reiki, remember? So when you get attuned to Reiki, sometimes you just emit that energy to whomever needs it. Light language is the same thing. And
Right.
I never knew that until I wrote this last book, and the beings were like, well, what about this? But so I never considered that we also emit what would be considered the language of light, but the language of light is just frequencies and downloads and healing, right? So
Right.
why wouldn't you emit that? Why do you have to do it verbally?
Well, I
So,
noticed that the urges to dance are more like
and that's a form. Yeah, that's a form of transmitting the frequencies.
yeah, but Patricia, I gotta tell you, you're talking to me and you are like, like those pop-up children's books. Like you're popping up out of this. It's really amazing me to watch what's going on with you right now. It's like it's so amazing that it's like I can just probably touch you. Like you're right, like the better way to explain it, it's like a hologram where I could see, like, how sometimes like people haze their background on, but then the person looks pronounced and like popped out.
Like
That's
third dimensional kind of, yeah, yeah.
like, see the words here, please. I'm getting a hot flash now. So like something is happening right now that is really beautiful and amazing. So I want to thank
Ah,
the
thank you
being
very much. Yeah.
for showing me all of that. That's amazing to me.
Well, and amazing that you can see it, right? Because a lot of people can't see those kind of things. And that's another thing that another example of how amazing you are, that
Mm.
you can see things. Like, I don't know, I'm not doing it purposely. I have no idea I'm doing it, but you can see that occurring. And a lot of people won't see that occur.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just so like there's like a white halo around where your hair should be, and you're just so like your face is moving, but nothing else is moving. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I feel so
Ah,
able to witness
what
this.
what a gift to be able to see something like that.
Yeah,
Did you and I talk about have you and I talked about you being clairvoyant before? I don't remember that.
no, we have not talked about that.
Did you know
I
that you were
don't.
clairvoyant?
I've I've been able, yeah, for
Okay.
to see. So, and I'm getting like um the not the buzzing, like in my
The
ear,
ringing?
yeah, the ringing in my ear. So a lot of stuff since I've been reading your book has been working, and meditating and doing all those things of, trying to open myself and um being an open channel,
Mhm.
and um to whatever comes next.
So
So
let me ask you, how has all of this affected your business? Because you work with people's bodies, right?
mhm,
So how has this gift coming back online, because you never lost it. So
mhm.
how has this gift coming back online affected how you work with people?
um I mean, my clientele is expanding. I have a lot of regulars. They're making referrals, sending family and friends to me. So um it's so funny because they give me a lot of accolades, like that's, you're like the best. And sometimes I joke and say, because I know it's not me, so I'll say, well, it's not me, just call me Jesus, and I'll make it funny because it's uncomfortable. I want to stay humble. I had one lady the other day saying, oh, you're making me want to purr, your touch. And I was like, all right, well, let it rip. I don't know what to tell you, but so it has been showing more and more in my work, and that people's reaction and responses are very positive. I've had a few people that um I have to refer out to somebody else because
Right.
they weren't accepting to my energy. And they, almost and I don't take this on, and I'm sure like spirit's not intending, but to them it hurts them. They
Yeah.
feel so I send them to somebody else, and that's worked out because the person that we've talked about earlier, I said, so like I have a different energy and she has a different energy, so whatever I can't work with, I
Yeah.
pass it along, and she seems to be a good match for those people. So
Yeah.
um
And you may
it,
find that happen more often. There are times, I mean, usually it's in public, but like at the psychic fairs and stuff, I'm a people watcher. I love to watch people. And so um, I can hear stories about them. So uh, there are times when I'm at the psychic fair, the wellness fair, and I will see people walk a wide circle around me, right? And so I just kind of snicker to myself and go, okay,
keep it moving.
keep walking. You just keep walking. But yeah, you're going to find that more and more, that as you connect in and your frequency rises, that certain people will not be able to align with that. And when they were having me write that book, there was a part in it about humans being magnetic, and the beings were talking to me about how we magnetize people and how we repel people with our frequencies, right? And that's what you're talking about. So yeah, sometimes my magnet and their magnet don't play well together, and you
Right.
just have to honor that and go, you stay over there, because when that happens, then chaos happens, right? And I'm not inviting chaos. So y'all keep that over there, and then I won't have chaos and y'all won't have chaos. So
Everybody's happy.
everybody's happy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's good. And so I think that you mentioned to me that when you were actually working on someone, that there was a different level of understanding that you got. Weren't you telling me that your understanding connection, that your connection has changed when you're working on people, that you can pick up things that you couldn't before? Can
Yeah,
you,
that's
can you remind me what that conversation was?
um I don't quite remember that conversation, but
I
eh,
think it's while we were in Egypt on the boat. You and I were talking. Maybe not. Anyway, I felt like I remembered a conversation where you were saying that you noticed a shift when you were working. I mean, not from being activated with light language, way before that you had already began to notice a shift.
right. When I first started with doing massage,
Okay.
yeah. I well, before I became a massage, I was always in the healing field. So I was a substance abuse counselor for 15 years. And so the energy that was used for that was different. Then I started doing Reiki, and then I started doing massage, and I can certainly feel the shifting between the Reiki and the massage and Reiki. And it really depends on the individual that I'm working with and how open they are. But I can feel and I can sense, and like when I go through, like the most everybody says is, wow, I didn't even know that was an issue, because they'll come in and want their neck or their knee or something, and then I'll work on something else because I'm being guided. And then that most people would be amazed, and then working on that one area would release in other areas as well. So that has been happening more and more and more, where their energy is shifting, and what they identified problem is really not the problem. To them it is,
Right.
but for me it's not. So it's interesting because through my massages in Reiki, a lot of Reiki's coming too, a lot of people coming in for Reiki, which is different. um I open myself up and I become a channel, so when I do that on a regular, then my clientele are more satisfied and seem to be better. When I don't do that, then it's all shit.
Right. When you try to control it, right?
Right.
So it so when you're doing massage on people, they're showing me that at some point, if you're not already doing it, you're going to begin to speak light language to their bodies. Okay. And just to be open to the clientele who come, and that you'll be directed when it's safe to do that and when not. In other words, you're not going to have any clients run screaming out of the spa. because you started speaking in another language. But and also, you know, like most people don't know what light language is. And so they don't know that you're speaking light language. They just think you're speaking another language, right? And so, like for me, when I make a joke that sometimes when I'm in Walmart and it starts to flow, because God knows Walmart needs healing, right? So so I'll just pick up a can of something, something, and just look at it and let it rip, you know.
Right,
So people think I'm reading the can in
right,
another language. They don't know what language I'm speaking. And so they don't question it, you
right.
know.
I would be right behind you picking up that can when you put it down.
Going, what's in this can? I want that can, put it in the basket. Um, so so it's like that, you know, when you're doing massage, is that sorry, I was getting a call. And remembering that you don't have to say light language out loud, right? You can do it in your mind. You can, you know, whisper it, or like you said, move your body. And if your massage client is lying there supposed to have their eyes closed, they don't know that you're moving your body, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I love it. I love it that you're bringing the frequencies to people in that kind of way.
mhm.
Like one of my sisters, um, at her she has her own psychic fair, and at her psychic fair she started out doing Reiki, but then it turned into light language Reiki, you know. And so now when someone is there for a session at the psychic fair, she calls it light language activations, I think is what she calls it. And it's where she starts out doing Reiki. And so she's giving, you know, healing energy to the body, but she's also speaking light language over them. And so that's kind of the model that I'm using when I'm talking about where you're going with all of this, you know, is that it feels as though that is something that's going to, if it's not already occurring for you, that's something that's going to occur for you. And that's how it will expand your business. But so in the area that you're in, do you see a lot of knowledge and understanding about light language, or does anybody talk about it there?
No, so two things. One is I want to thank you for the validation because when I'm massaging I get the light language, like I'm getting told light language. And so what happens is I'm like, oh, light language. Okay. So then all of a sudden I'll start dancing around the table. And my coworkers, because we do couples massages, they're like, every time I turn around, you're over there dancing. I'm like, well, I can't help myself. So I'm getting that opening, and that at one point I felt like it was going to flow right out of my mouth, but I whatever, it will come. So that, and then with the second question, yes, out of the blue, because that's how spirit works, right? So this woman came in for a massage, and when I gave her a massage, and then I was walking her out, and I asked her, "Do you do Reiki?" And she said, "Yeah." And so I'm like, I was so into her Reiki, I could feel it so clearly with her. And so I said, "Well, tell me more." And so she said that when she does Reiki, she does chanting Reiki. I said, wait a minute, is it chanting Reiki or is it light language? And she sort of looked at me, And she goes, it's light language. I'm like, oh, we have to sit together and chat.
There you go. Yeah.
So people are coming in and starting to make themselves visible. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
And because you have a space, maybe, so you know what a meetup is, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So because you have a space, what would happen if you started a meetup group for light language? Because this is what happens. Meetup advertises your group. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So every time there's a new group, they base it on the keywords that you use, right? So if you had a new group and the keywords that you used were metaphysical, light language, galactic, Reiki, healing, expansion, the keywords, if you use, what they do is, I guess they call that algorithms, right? So when a new group is started, Meetup will send a notice out to anyone who's currently involved in any group that has those keywords in it. They'll send out a notice saying, new group,
Right.
and then people will, join your group and start to come to your events.
That's so
So
funny.
maybe you could consider starting a light language meetup. And we had that here for a while, and I met some very interesting new relatives that way, but it's a way because people are feeling really splintered, they're feeling as though, like the Reiki chick, people are feeling as though they're the only ones doing this, Can you hear my dog barking?
That time I did, but that wasn't
Okay.
of
So that would be really good for you. It'd be good for you, personally good for you, because, then you would know you're not up there by yourself, and it would give you someone to have these kind of conversations with, and you could, because once you, and there would be people who are interested in light language, but not reconnected to it yet either, right? And
Right.
so what you would be doing was you would be activating them to remember their language, because you're an activator.
Right.
And so that would be a way for you to begin to grow your community. So maybe you'll think about that.
Absolutely. I've already been thinking, like, I know that something's going to shift at the spa. I know that. And I keep saying, like, this isn't forever. This spa is not forever, but I'm not feeling like it's going to be a close chapter. I feel like it's going to be expanding to something different.
Well,
And
but not only that. So, I mean, is in the way of steps, right? And so you create your meetup group, you put a date on the calendar, on this date, this time, I'm going to have a group. You're welcome to show up, right? And so those people who are coming are also going to become clients.
Right.
For your spa business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also a way of building your business. And some of those people may be massage therapists, because you're saying that you need therapists, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I mean, it all works together.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take that and run with it, as they say.
So is there anything else that that the conversation prompts you that you want to share?
No, I mean, I really love the idea of creating the meetup group. So I'm going to be reaching out for help for that. And I think we've covered about everything.
Yeah, I mean, to meet up, I think at the time, I closed mine about 3 years ago because there's unfortunately there's a life expectancy of meetup groups, and it's not usually very long. And
Right.
so mine have never lasted more than a couple of 3-4 years, right? Because there's always something new, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I don't want people to become dependent on me. I want them to expand and go experience different things, right? So at the time that I was doing it, it was like $19 a month, you know, for the privilege of having a group. And like I said, they advertise it for you. All that you do is create it, you know. And yeah, I can help you with descriptions or whatever it is that you need.
Mhm.
And then let Meetup advertise it, you
Right.
know, and put a notice on your Facebook. I've created a meetup, you
Mhm.
know, and put a notice in your window, you know, your business window. There's a meetup here on Wednesday nights, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
And sometimes the meetup is just simply discussions. People need to talk, you know, they need information. And but it is good. I did enjoy them when I had them, you know.
Right. It's important to have community, and that's something
Mm.
that we here,
Yeah.
or that I have not tapped into. I have in the past when I lived
Uh-huh.
in all. I was involved with the spiritualist group. Um, but then, like you said, we all um, go and you get what you need, and then you move on. You
Right.
outgrow things. And so it'd be nice to do something up here in Saratoga, um, with meeting new people and like-minded people. I know they're out there, but because maybe just haven't found the safe place that they need to be able to
Yeah.
come here.
Because I'm in a small town.
Mhm.
Well, it's not as small as it used to be, but I'm in small town USA. And one of my friends opened up a crystal shop here, and it was slow growing, right? Because, you know, small town, redneck city, who's going to go to a crystal shop? But we were really surprised when we started the meetup, because I started the meetup to help her crystal shop grow, basically. And we were really surprised. People came out of the woodwork. I mean, people drove an hour to get
Wow.
to us
Yeah.
because they were like, oh my God, I didn't know anybody else. And, you know, I don't know anybody else that thinks the way that I do. And I'm so happy to find you guys. And, you know, and so it helped her metaphysical shop grow, right? But so I'm, you know, that's usually what happens. You start a meetup and people go, oh my God, this is a real thing and it's close to me. And, you know, and you really can, I mean, that helps other people, not just you, but it's
Right.
going to help them because they're feeling splintered and alone, and, you know, that nobody else understands the way they understand things. And so it would be great if you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel motivated.
Yeah, well, I can certainly help you,
All
um,
right.
help you build it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Okay. Assignments. You got assignments. You
Yay.
got you got homework.
Yay. Always. Right.
So it feels like there's something else that you need to share with people. Um,
Maybe it's going to be a part 2.
well, it could be a part. Or do you have something after this? Are you in a hurry?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. Okay. Because what I was going to ask you to do was just to talk real quick. I have a lot of people who, and it's a big movement now to quit their corporate jobs or their desk jobs or whatever. And they find healing, they find that they have gifts in helping other people, and they want to quit their day job and go full time, and then they do that and they find that they can't support themselves in it. And they get really discouraged. So because you've managed to do that, you've managed to have a healing business, and you're managing to support yourself in that. Is there anything that you want, that you're feeling would encourage somebody?
Patricia, all I can say about that is none of this is of me. None of it. It really is not the direction that I thought my life was going to be. Nothing that has happened in my life is not the direction. When I get in there and I try to make things about me, it always blows up. So every day I wake up and what's next? And everything's just presented. Like I was saying earlier, like I feel like this spa is a continuum. It's not my final destination. It was a gift. It was gifted to me. It was nothing that I was looking for. I was working there. The owner, out of the blue, called me up and asked me if I wanted to take it. Was in my mind years ago, about 6 years ago, I worked there for a different owner, and I was joking, tongue in cheek, saying, one day I'm going to own this place. Didn't mean it. Didn't think
you manifested it though. Yeah.
Right. And then 3 years later, I get the phone call, and of course I don't trust, right? Because I'm a humanoid. And so I was like, well, what's the catch? Is it a money pit? Like, what's wrong with it? It took me about a month, but Spirit was determined that this was where I was going to go. And I tried to slam the door, and Spirit would open it right back up. And so 6 years later, no, how many years later? Maybe 4, going on 5 years. I don't even know, to tell you the truth. Maybe 4 years, 5 years. Here I am. And all through COVID, the business continues to grow. And people that were coming or stopped coming when it was under other owners, they're like, oh, wow, I heard there was a new owner. I heard, so people are coming to the spa where other people, the doors are closing, unfortunately. But so the best thing.
Uh-oh, you froze again. Let's see if she comes back. So for those of you who are watching, there's a lot of like solar flare energy occurring, and this happens a lot, where you're on Zoom with somebody and they freeze, and it cuts out. So we're going to give her just a second to come back. But just to let you know what's going on, I had a talk scheduled with Carolyn, and oh, there she popped out. So I had a talk scheduled with her, and we started out the talk, and I said, oh my God, this would be a great conversation for the podcast. And so, are you willing to do this as a podcast? And she said, well, we can try it. So that's the reason that we're having just an impromptu conversation this morning. And there she is. Hold on. There you are.
Hi.
So I was just sharing that that we started out with just a conversation. So this turned into an impromptu podcast episode. So it's probably just about time for your client, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I had made plans with somebody else to do
Oh,
some, the flood that happens here in my yard. We're getting ready to go out there and start cleaning it up.
well, I'm glad that your house is high up, so you never experienced any damage to your house, right?
Yeah, no damage to the house, just the back of the yard.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, so you were sharing about the business. Is there anything that
Okay, so you didn't get any of that. Okay,
I,
so
well, what we got was you were saying that you were basically given the business and you've been doing it for about 5 years now. Yeah. So what was the rest of it?
thing that I can say really is that things are going to turn out the way they're supposed to turn out, no matter how much I try to make it all about what I want and what I need. And so, what I've learned is to step out of the way, step
Yeah.
out of, wake up, put my feet on the floor, and just what's next. I chuckle because I remember I was when I first met you and we were talking about light language, and you say you take your little ego and you put it aside, and I was like, yeah, but mine keep coming back, and basically, really, that's what I do subconsciously when it comes to my life. I just I just go with whatever's coming. And when there's an end to a chapter for me, I hear it's so funny in my right ear. I hear like these gears like tick 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 tick. And the best way I can liken it to when a chapter is going to change or close is like a gate that you hear the clank of a gate. And then
Wow.
that's the end. And then, but before, and then, well, I was going to say before that happens, there's something else presented, but sometimes not. Sometimes I've had to sit like for 3 years with no income and just a lot of prayer. And then something happens. And so I have to remember those moments and have the faith that whatever comes next is going to come without me trying to manipulate it. When I manipulate it, it blows up and it's not pretty.
Right.
my
But
my don't do anything that is not with a lot of emphasis because I am thick-headed.
that's part of learning how to be in the flow, right? And as human beings, well, one things that we were programmed with is being in control. So it was a program that if you aren't in control, then you're out of control, right? And so we were programmed to feel as though we have to always be in control of the situation. And that's a masculine program. The feminine program is being able to flow. And so the teaching that they gave was that women are like willows, right? We're fluid, we move with the wind, or we move with the energy that's required, and then there's the oak.
Right, right. The strong and the
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
so
like
we're the willows, they're the oaks, and both have a purpose,
right,
both have a purpose. And so, but when we forget that we're willows, then chaos happens a lot of times.
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
important. If we were all the same, one of us would be unnecessary. So we need to have that balance, you know, and to let somebody else be the willow and somebody else be the oak. I
Right.
personally willow. I'll take the willow anytime.
Well, I'm in Aries, and I have a tendency to be the oak sometimes. And I have to remember that I'm really a willow.
And I'm a Leo. So I
Yeah.
should pull out of an oak every once in a while.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, yeah. So we're all down here in human bodies, and sometimes we have to remind ourselves that how does the saying go? We're really a soul inhabiting a body, right? So we have to remind ourselves sometimes that we're more than this spacesuit that we're in. I used to say meat suit, and I was actually at a light language gallery, and I mentioned, not me, the person that I was partnering with. She had heard me say meat suit, and she used the term meat suit. And there was a lady in the meeting that we were having who just went ballistic about that.
Huh.
That triggered her big time, you know, and
Right.
she was like, I'm more than a meat suit, and da 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 da. And we went, okay, we won't
Right.
use that term anymore. You
Yeah,
know,
you really scratched her ego, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I could
Awaken.
I could see maybe where she was getting that from. So I try not to use that term anymore because I don't want to trigger someone, but
Right.
spacesuit might be better. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
whatever. We're still spirits in whatever form,
Well,
you
when you
know?
think about it, though, spacesuit might be a better term because so they wear spacesuits to protect them from the atmosphere, right?
Right.
They wear spacesuits so that they can still breathe in whatever atmosphere they're in. So it is kind of appropriate.
It is sort of, and in my brain, I'm thinking, well, a lot of it, like even if it depends on that saying, not my circus, not my monkeys. So
Yeah,
when you're talking, I'm thinking, well, in my monkey suit, because some days I'm in a monkey suit because I'm in a circus.
right, right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's so funny.
Mhm.
This life is so funny. I remember I spent a minute in working in a dorm, another place that needed a lot of healing, because it was through Job Corps. It was for
Uh-huh.
people who were in the system one way or the other, and it was for teaching trades. So I remember the job was so chaotic because there was so many things that happened on that dorm, um that one day I was like so overwhelmed, and I was like, when you're in the crossroads, I was standing in the middle of the north, south, east, west, where the dorms were. And then I had this conscious thought, or subconscious thought, thinking, you know what, which TV programming do I want to go into? Do I want to go into the horror, the comedy, the love story? Oh, I can't even remember what the last one was.
Yeah.
But that's like life, right? We can
Yeah.
go outside. What role am I, what station am I going to be in today? Because I have no idea what's going to happen, and I just got to go with it. So
Yeah.
like you said, be the willow and go with the flow.
Yeah. That's all you can do, because if you try to fight it, then like you said, chaos happens.
Mhm.
If you try to be something that you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to close this chapter, but don't hang up.
Okay.
So I want to thank everybody for joining me and Carolyn, and I want to thank Carolyn
Thank
for
you.
being able to do an impromptu episode. And I promised her, by the way, that she could review this before I post it. You may or may not get to see this episode, in other words. But I just want to thank you, Carolyn, for joining us and being open to having this conversation, because there are so many people out there, believe it or not, who are in the same situation or similar situation, with their remembrance of the language of light and the remembrance of their gifts, And so I think that your sharing will help somebody to feel more comfortable and to feel encouraged. That's why I wanted you to share. So,
Oh, thank you. Well,
so
thank
thank
you.
you all for, yeah. So thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to stop the recording. Don't hang up, Carolyn. I've got something else to share with you off camera.
Okay.